They were pioneers in the heart of Southeast Asia. If you open almost any kitchen cupboard, you'll probably find a piece of a century-old empire. It might be a bottle of soy sauce, a can of curry, or maybe a carton of chrysanthemum tea. For generations, the name Yeo Seng, or just Yeo's, was more than a brand. It was a household staple, a symbol of quality, tradition, and family. This was the house that the Yeo family built. From a humble soy sauce shop in China, one family forged a food empire that seemed unstoppable. They were pioneers, innovators, and titans of industry. But at the absolute height of their success, a bitter feud between brothers would ignite a war for control that would ultimately cost them everything. This is the story of how a promise to unite and succeed ended in a dynasty's downfall. The name itself, Seng, means unite to succeed. It was a founding principle, a family creed, and for decades, it worked. The Yeo family turned a simple condiment into a multi-million-dollar international conglomerate, with their products finding a home in over 55 countries. They were celebrated, awarded, and held up as a shining example of a family business that had mastered the art of balancing tradition and modernity. But behind the boardroom doors, a storm was brewing. A classic tale of ambition, jealousy, and betrayal was about to play out in the most public way imaginable, proving that old warning that wealth doesn't pass 3 generations. This is the story of the Yeo family, an international empire soured by sibling rivalry. The story of Yeo Seng doesn't begin in the gleaming metropolis of modern Singapore, but in the coastal province of Fujian, China, at the turn of the 20th century. It was there in 1901 that a man named Yeo Lian started a small shop. His trade was soy sauce, a craft he perfected with meticulous care. He was a devout Christian, and his business was built on principles of quality and integrity. The name he chose for his venture was Seng, meaning unite to succeed, a name infused with hope and the Christian symbol of the cross. For years, the Seng sauce factory was a modest local affair, known for its quality but stuck within its geography. The world outside that small shop was changing and fast. By the 1930s, China was in turmoil, and Yeo Lian's second son, Yeo Tianyin, saw the writing on the wall. He was a man with vision, having taken over the business from his father, and was looking for a way to grow it. Seeking stability and new opportunities, he made a fateful decision. He would move the family business to Singapore. In 1938, as the clouds of war gathered over Asia, the Yeo Seng sauce factory was established at the junction of Outram and Havelock Roads in Singapore. The early days weren't easy. The Singapore market was fiercely competitive. Local vendors sold Cantonese-style soy sauce in bulk, delivering it door to door, while Yeo's sold its bottled Hokkien-style sauce in provision shops. Business was slow, but Yeo Tian-in was resilient. He brought his brother Tian Koyu over to help with marketing, and together they pushed to establish their brand. Their greatest test, however, was just around the corner. During World War II, Singapore fell under Japanese occupation. In January 1942, the Yeo Seng factory was hit by a bomb. By a stroke of what the deeply religious family considered a miracle, the damage wasn't catastrophic, and no one was harmed. Because it was already damaged, the factory was spared from having its stock seized by the invading army, a fate that befell many other sauce makers. Against all odds, and despite the scarcity and soaring black market prices of raw materials like beans and salt, the Yeo family kept the factory running throughout the war. This period of hardship forged a reputation for tenacity and resilience that would define the company for decades. When the war ended, Yeo Seng didn't just recover, it soared. The post-war years were a period of explosive growth and brilliant innovation. Yeo Tian-in, recognizing the changing needs of a rapidly modernizing society, began to diversify. In 1947, the company purchased a large 8-acre plot of land in a then-rural area called Bukit Timah to build a new, modern factory. This new facility would become the engine of their empire. The company's first major diversification came in 1952, and it was a product that would become a legend in its own right: canned curry chicken. It was a revolutionary idea for the time. Here was a traditional, home-cooked meal, made shelf-stable, hygienic, and affordable. For families across Singapore and Malaya, it was a taste of home that was convenient and reliable. The product was an instant success, establishing Yeo's as a pioneer in the canned food industry. But they didn't stop there. Just a year later, in 1953, the company launched a vitamin-fortified soy milk. This was another masterstroke. Soy milk was a traditional favorite, but Yeo's bottled it, making it accessible to everyone, everywhere. This was followed by a line of other beloved Asian drinks: chrysanthemum tea, sugarcane drink, and winter melon tea. These weren't just beverages, they were a part of daily life. Drinks believed to have cooling or medicinal properties, now available on any shop shelf. The Yeo family understood something profound about their customers. In an increasingly fast-paced world, people craved convenience, but not at the expense of comfort and tradition. Yeo's gave them both. By the late 1950s, the company was churning out thousands of cans of food and bottles of drinks every day, their products reaching markets across Malaysia and even as far as Australia. The humble soy sauce shop from Fujian had transformed into a Singaporean icon, a household name synonymous with quality, comfort, and the taste of home. The first generation had built the foundation, and the second generation had turned it into a burgeoning empire. The name Hiap Seng, Unite to Succeed, seemed like a prophecy fulfilled. The family was united, and they were succeeding beyond their wildest dreams. The 1960s and 70s were the golden age for Yeo Seng. The company was no longer just a local success story. It was on the cusp of becoming a global player, thanks to a technological innovation that would once again put them years ahead of the competition. In 1967, Yeo's became the first company in the world to package Asian drinks in Tetra Brick aseptic cartons. This was a complete game changer. The technology, which used ultra-high temperature UHT processing, allowed drinks like soy milk and chrysanthemum tea to be packaged in lightweight rectangular cartons that didn't need refrigeration and had a shelf life of months. Before this, drinks were sold in heavy, fragile glass bottles that were expensive to transport. The Tetra Pak innovation/distribution costs reduced waste and opened the floodgates for exports. Suddenly, the familiar tastes of Singapore could be shipped easily and cheaply across the world. While the technology was first developed in Europe for milk, Yeo's perfected its use for Asian drinks, a moment of incredible foresight that cemented their reputation as a true innovator. Riding this wave, the company went public on the Singapore Stock Exchange, listing on November 7, 1968. It was a major milestone marking its transition from a family-run business to a formidable public corporation. To safeguard their control, the family established Yeo Seng Holdings, a private holding company that owned a significant block of shares on behalf of the sprawling Yeo clan. This structure was designed to ensure that the family's vision would continue to guide the empire they had built. Throughout the 1970s and into the 80s, the company's growth was relentless. They secured the bottling rights for major international brands like Pepsi and 7-Up in Singapore and Malaysia, further strengthening their production and distribution networks. By the 1980s, YHS was the second largest beverage manufacturer in the region, trailing only the giant Fraser and Neve, F&N. The Yeo's brand was now a powerhouse. Leading the charge during this era was Alan Yeo, son of patriarch Yeo Tian In. After his father's passing in 1985, Alan, a sharp and ambitious businessman, took the reins as chairman and CEO. He was charismatic and widely respected in Singapore's corporate world. In 1987, he was named Singapore's Businessman of the Year, a testament to the company's incredible success. The Yeo clan was praised as a superb example of a family-controlled business, a model for others to follow. Alan himself was appointed to the boards of major government-linked corporations, a sign of his status as a leading figure in the nation's economy. The empire was at its absolute peak, but it's often at the height of success that the seeds of conflict are sown. The Yeo clan was no longer a small, tight-knit group. By the 1990s, it had ballooned to include about 50 members across 6 family branches. With so many voices, disagreements were inevitable. The very structure that was meant to keep them united, the family holding company, was becoming a source of tension. Decisions once made by the patriarch were now subject to majority votes among a diverse group of cousins and nephews with differing opinions and ambitions. The flashpoint came in 1989. Eager to conquer the American market, Alan Yeo, in a joint venture with the government investment arm, Temasek Holdings, orchestrated the U.S. $52 million acquisition of Chungking, a well-known American brand of canned Chinese food. On paper, it looked like a bold, strategic move. In reality, it was a disaster. From the start, many within the family felt they had overpaid. More importantly, YHS fundamentally misunderstood the American market. They lacked the distribution muscle of a giant like RJR Nabisco, the company they'd bought it from. On top of that, the American palate was changing. Canned Chinese food was losing its appeal as even small towns now had access to fresh, takeout Chinese restaurants. The Chungking venture hemorrhaged money, posting losses of $36 million in just 4 years. The investment became a massive black eye for Alan Yeo and a major point of contention within the family. His nephews, particularly Charles and Henry Yeo, began to openly challenge his leadership. They accused him of being autocratic, of making reckless decisions without proper consultation, and of mismanaging the company's finances. The dream of conquering America had turned into a costly nightmare, and it was tearing the family apart. This was more than a business this dispute. It was a violation of deep-seated cultural norms. To openly challenge the head of the family was a serious breach of tradition and a cause of immense loss of face for everyone involved. The company name, Yeo Seng, Yeo Unite to Succeed, was becoming a bitter irony. A well-known Chinese proverb warns that wealth does not pass 3 generations. The first generation had built it, the second had expanded it, and now the third was on the verge of destroying it. The simmering tensions within the Yeo family finally boiled over in the early 1990s. The arguments that began in the boardroom spilled into the public, turning into one of the most talked-about corporate dramas in Singapore's history. The faction led by nephews Charles and Henry Yeo grew more organized and vocal in their attempts to oust their uncle, Alan Yeo, from the chairman's seat. They saw him as an imperious leader whose costly gamble with Chun King had put their inheritance at risk. Feeling his power threatened, Alan Yeo made a high-stakes all-or-nothing move in May 1994. He filed a court petition to dissolve Yeo Seng Holdings, the very family holding company that was created to keep the family's controlling 38.5% stake unified and secure. His logic was tactical and ruthless. Within the holding company, his faction was in the minority. By dissolving it, he hoped to break up the family's shares into individual holdings, then cobble together a new majority with outside shareholders to secure his own position as chairman. It was a nuclear option, a move that would permanently shatter the family's collective control just to win a personal power struggle. The court agreed to the dissolution. The family's powerful voting bloc was no longer solid, but a collection of fragmented shares held by relatives who were now openly at war. The family's shield was broken, and they were exposed. While the Yeos were busy fighting each other, a far more dangerous predator had been quietly circling. Ng Teng Fong was one of Singapore's most formidable property tycoons, a man known for his shrewdness and his insatiable appetite for undervalued assets. Through his company, Orchard Parade Holdings, he had been silently buying up Yeo Seng shares on the open market. The Yeo family's public feud had made the company vulnerable, and Ng saw a golden opportunity. He wasn't just interested in their beverage business, he was interested in their land. The YHS factory sat on a massive, valuable plot in Bukit Timah, which, thanks to government rezoning, was now prime real estate designated for lucrative residential development. The land alone was worth hundreds of millions. With the family's voting bloc shattered, Yingji's company quickly became a major shareholder. By June 1995, he controlled 24.9% of the company, just shy of the 25% threshold that would trigger a mandatory buyout offer. The Yeos had lost control without even realizing it. The internal war had left the castle gates undefended. A frantic, last-ditch takeover battle ensued. Another billionaire, Malaysian tycoon Kwek Leng Chan, entered the fray, allying with some of the Yeo factions, including Charles and eventually even Alan, who sold his shares to Kwek in a desperate attempt to fend off Ng Teng Fong. But it was too little, too late. Ng was relentless. He launched a public offer for all remaining shares, and by 1995, his victory was absolute. He had acquired a staggering 86% of Yeo Seng, securing total control. The end came swiftly. Alan Yeo, once the celebrated businessman of the year, was unceremoniously removed as CEO. For the first time in its history, a non-Yeo was appointed to lead the company. Robert Ng Teng Fong's son, took over as the new chairman in June 1995. The era of the Yeo family was over. One of the most colorful and bitter takeover battles in Singapore's history had ended, and the dynasty had fallen. The aftermath was brutal. Under its new ownership, Yeo Seng pivoted from being a food and beverage company into a real estate developer. The new owner's priority was unlocking the value of the company's land. The iconic Bukit Timah factory, the heart of the Yeo empire for nearly half a century, was vacated and the land redeveloped into a luxury condominium project. While the Yeo's brand of drinks and food continued to be produced, the soul of the company had changed forever. It was now a property-driven enterprise that just happened to own a beloved heritage brand. The family that had once stood for unity was left shattered. The fight didn't end with the loss of the company. Years later, the brothers Charles and Henry Yeo, who had once been allies against their uncle, found themselves on opposite sides of a new legal battle, this time against each other, fighting over their late mother's estate. The tragic irony was complete. Today, the name Yeo's still adorns countless products on supermarket shelves. It remains a symbol of comfort and nostalgia for millions who grew up with it. But it's a name disembodied from its creators, a legacy that now belongs to someone else. The story of the Yeo family is a powerful cautionary tale. It's a story of incredible vision and innovation, but also a story of how personal ambition and family conflict can unravel a century of hard work. The promise to unite to succeed had built an empire, but in the end, the failure to uphold that promise was what brought it all crashing down. Stories like the Yeo families are a fascinating look into the dynamics of power, wealth, and family. If you found this story compelling, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the rise and fall of the world's most powerful dynasties. From a small soy sauce shop in Fujian to a global food and beverage giant, the Yeo Seng story is a testament to immigrant ambition and entrepreneurial genius. For nearly a century, the Yeo family built a brand that became woven into the cultural fabric